Very good evening to one and all. This video will introduce you to writing classes and objects using C++ programming language. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm, just as you have procedural programming or functional programming. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm which focuses mainly on security of the data. This programming paradigm revolves around creating objects and classes. So what is a class? Let us understand what is a class by taking an example program. Consider that you are asked to write a program to accept and display details of students. So let's divide this program by asking two questions. First, what are the details? Second, how to accept and display these details. So if you could pause for a while and write down what are the details and how to accept these details, you would be solving the problem. So these are my answers. These details could be name, roll number of the student, address, and so on. How to accept and display in a program? It could be done with simple sequential input-output statements, or it could be written in functions. So a class is a user-defined data type which models this entire problem of accepting and displaying the data of a student. It is a collection of the data, that is the name, roll number, address, and so on, and functions which will be used to accept and display data, basically manipulating the data. This data should be manipulated only by the functions in a class. What are objects? Once you have created a class, you can then create instances of a class which are called objects. To use this class, we have to create objects of it. And only these objects can access the data and functions of the class. We will be studying classes and objects, that is object-oriented programming, using the C++ programming language. C++ programming language is a procedural as well as object-oriented programming language, which means that you can write programs even if they are not of the object-oriented paradigm. Similarly, you can write programming languages only with object-oriented paradigm without using procedural method. C++ language is a superset of the basic programming language C. So if you know C programming language, understanding C++ programming language is not a difficult task. A lot of the syntax is the same. C++ language in fact is written using classes and objects. We will now understand how to write a program using classes and objects, taking an example of a student class. We use a compiler for C++ called DaveCpp, and we will open a new source file. We will write the user directives, IO stream using the namespace, we will now begin writing the class to model the student class. The syntax to write a class is class, the name of the class, could be in capital letters or in small. By convention, we write the first letter as capital and the remaining in small case. The class opens up with a curly bracket and it closes with a curly bracket and a semicolon. We will first write, as we said, a class contains data and functions. We will first write the data and then the function. It can be written the other way as well. So the data here, as we said, is name, roll number and address. Name could have a string data type, for which we will include the string class. Address too can be given the string class. Roll number will have type integer. As we mentioned earlier, C++ object-oriented programming focuses on security of data. Hence, we have certain labels specifying where the data is supposed to be hidden or it is supposed to be accessible. If we don't specify, it means that it is hidden or it is private. We will keep the data private and we will make the functions accessible to all so that the data can be accessible from the main program. So we will make the functions public. Let us consider two simple functions to accept and display. One is void get data to accept the data. We will write simple statements to accept the data. Cout, enter name, cin, name, cout, enter address, cin, address, cout, enter roll number, cin, roll number. We will similarly write another function to display the content of the data accepted. Void cout name is name, cout address is Cout roll number is so this is the class which is ready. It has the data and it has function. As we said, this class is going to be accessible only through an object created of the class. We will now write the main function wherein we will create objects of this class. When we have to create a data type of say integer, we will type int and the variable name. Similarly, class is now a new user defined data type. That is, student is a new user defined data type. So we will type student and we will give a variable name, let's say s. In order to access or in order to accept the data, this student object will then call getData and display functions. It does that using the dot operator. S dot getData, S dot display. If you notice, we are not using the data directly. We are not saying S dot roll number, S dot name, S dot address. This is due to the fact that the data here is private while the functions are public. Hence, the data is accessible only through the functions of the class. We will now run this program and check the output. Let us save it as student. You see, student s.getData has called the function, so we will enter a name, enter address, enter roll number, and this is the data display. Thank you for watching.